We are 10 days away until Election Day in the United States, and you may have noticed a vibe change when it comes to Kamala Harris's campaign. When she first became the nominee, after Joe Biden was ousted, it was all about the joy. She barely mentioned policy because that clearly wasn't important to her. It was just all about the good vibes. But now, it seems they may have disappeared.
Should never again stand behind the seal of the President of the United States of America. Never again. Never again.
The Vice President is still sticking to her original message, but it's a little less convincing.
And let's not be afraid of having a little joy to the point of, what makes you feel good about your work.
This is crunch time, and Kamala Harris needs to get as many votes as she can. So does Donald Trump. But you may have noticed the Vice President hasn't been seen with Joe Biden in quite some time, and you wonder why that is. Here she was today, subtly throwing Joe Biden under the bus as she accidentally acknowledged that the position of president has been essentially vacant for the last 3.5 years because Joe Biden has been focused on getting enough sleep.
There is a yearning for a president of the United States who will see you, who gets you, and who will fight for you.
This election campaign has been a wild ride, full of twists and turns. Just last month, Kamala Harris was the favourite to win, but that is no longer the case. At this point in the campaign, the home stretch, the time where it matters, Kamala Harris is falling behind. The Spectator's Washington editor, Amber Duke, joined Power Hour for her take on what's gone wrong. But as you mentioned the polls, so let's take a look at them. For the first time since August, Donald Trump has overtaken Kamala Harris in the Economist's prediction model for the US presidential election. And the latest forecast gives Donald Trump a 54% chance of returning to the White House. That is up 6 points in the past week. Let's look at the betting market. The betting odds for Donald Trump winning the election have hit their highest since July. That was when President Biden stepped aside for Kamala Harris. And on Polymarket, Donald Trump leads Kamala Harris by more than 25%. That is a significant number, Amber. Why are we seeing this?
It is significant. I think what you're seeing is the Harris honeymoon is over, and Trump's pollsters predicted this back when she first took over the nomination from Joe Biden. Democrats were just excited that they didn't have to vote for effectively a corpse anymore, right? They had a living, breathing human being who was seemingly capable of walking onto a stage and reading remarks from a teleprompter without repeating the line. And unfortunately for them, they found out that Kamala Harris is just as vapid as Joe Biden. She, to this day, has failed to explain why her positions changed so much between 2019 and 2024. She has refused to even answer on what some of her positions are, most notably in this latest NBC News interview, refusing to say whether or not she supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for illegal aliens who are in prisons, which is like the most insane Mad Lib that you can come up with. And yet somehow this is a debate for Kamala Harris as to whether to say yes or no to this policy. So every part of her campaign has demonstrated that she's not prepared to lead. That's why the polls are shaking out the way they are today.
And Americans are voting in historic numbers ahead of Election Day. That includes Republicans, as many seem to be responding to a new message from former President Donald Trump, telling them that it's okay to vote early. In Nevada, more Republicans have reportedly submitted ballots than Democrats for the first time in a presidential election year since 2008. What do you make of the trends?
In Nevada, that includes Clark County, which is obviously where Las Vegas is, which is going to be a huge player in that swing state. And then Republicans also doing really well with early voting in Virginia, which most people would assume is going blue, but the Trump team seems to think that that's in play as well because of the early vote returns. And clearly the Trump campaign's messaging on this, as well as the Republican National Committee's attempt to get people to vote early, is paying off. They've invested a lot of money in making sure that when they are knocking on doors or otherwise reaching voters, that they are giving them their options for how they can vote ahead of Election Day. And this is really important because when you're running a political campaign, you want to be able to narrow your focus on a select few voters that you think are going to turn the election in these final few weeks. If you have a voter who banks their vote early or does a mail-in or absentee ballot, that's one less person that you have to spend money courting, and one less person whose door you have to knock again, or who you have to worry about reaching in a television ad. So it makes their job a lot easier in that final stretch.